My entitled sister always expected me to bail her out financially. After years of supporting her lifestyle, I finally said no to another loan. She responded by spreading horrible rumors about me and the family. I, 34F, have always been the responsible one in my family. Since graduating college, I've worked my way up in finance, lived below my means, and built a comfortable life for myself. My sister Sarah, 31F, on the other hand, has always taken the path of least resistance. The events of the past few months have completely transformed my family dynamics, and I'm still processing everything. Growing up in a middle-class suburb of Chicago, our parents weren't particularly well off, but they did their best. Dad worked as a high school teacher, and Mom ran a small alterations business from our basement. They taught us the value of hard work, but somehow those lessons affected us differently. Sarah was always the pretty one, the social butterfly who could charm her way out of any situation. I was the studious bookworm who planned for the future. This dynamic defined our childhood and followed us into adulthood, though I never expected it to spiral into the mess I'm dealing with now. I still remember the day Sarah was born. I was 3 years old, and my parents tell me I immediately appointed myself as her protector. Maybe that's where this all started, this deep-seated need to take care of her, to shield her from consequences, to be the responsible one. Throughout our childhood, I was the one making sure she got up for school, helping her with homework, covering for her when she sneaked out to parties in high school. Our parents, overwhelmed with work and daily responsibilities, often relied on me to handle Sarah. The financial dependency started small. About 7 years ago, Sarah called me crying about being unable to make rent. She had just lost her job as a restaurant manager, supposedly unfairly, though I later learned she had been consistently late and had gotten into several arguments with customers. Being the protective older sister, I transferred her $800 without hesitation. She promised to pay me back within a month. That money never came. Looking back, I can pinpoint exactly how the pattern established itself. A week after I sent the money, Sarah posted pictures of herself at a trendy rooftop bar. When I questioned this, she explained that her friends had treated her because they knew she was going through a rough time. I wanted to believe her. No, I needed to believe her. The alternative, that my baby sister was taking advantage of me, was too painful to consider. Over the years, the emergencies became more frequent and expensive. Car repairs for a vehicle she couldn't afford. Medical bills that seemed suspiciously vague. Business ventures that were guaranteed to succeed. First a multi-level marketing scheme selling essential oils, then a handmade jewelry business, followed by a failed attempt at becoming a social media influencer. Each time, she'd approach me with tears and promises, playing on my guilt by reminding me how much better off I was. "You're my sister," she'd say. "Family helps family." The amounts kept escalating. $1,000 for a security deposit on a new apartment after she got evicted from her last place. $3,000 for a life-changing marketing course that would teach her to build an online empire. $5,000 for emergency dental work, which somehow resulted in her getting veneers rather than the root canal she'd initially described. $8,000 for a business opportunity that turned out to be another pyramid scheme. I estimate I've loaned her close to $50,000 over the years. The pattern was always the same: urgent need, emotional manipulation, promises to repay, followed by excuses and eventually radio silence until the next crisis. Meanwhile, her social media showed a different story: designer purchases, tropical vacations, fancy restaurants. When confronted, she'd always have an explanation: gifts from friends, amazing deals, work perks. I wanted to believe her. Our parents remained largely unaware of the financial dynamics between us. Sarah was masterful at presenting herself as someone who was figuring things out but essentially self-sufficient. She'd show up at family gatherings with expensive gifts, explaining that she'd found amazing sales or had done well with her latest venture. Our mother would beam with pride, telling everyone how her youngest was such a go-getter. The breaking point came last month. Sarah showed up at my house unannounced on a Tuesday evening, mascara running down her face. She had a life-changing opportunity, a chance to become a partner in a new boutique opening downtown. All she needed was $25,000 for the initial investment. She had brought a business plan, clearly copied from the internet, and swore this would be different. This would be her chance to pay me back everything. As I sat there at my kitchen counter, Looking at her tear-stained face and the glossy printouts of her business plan, something inside me finally snapped. Maybe it was seeing the Louis Vuitton bag she'd casually tossed on my counter, the same model I'd been eyeing for months but couldn't justify buying for myself because I was always sending money her way. Maybe it was remembering how I'd had to postpone my own dreams of buying a house because my savings kept getting drained. Or maybe I'd just finally reached my limit. For the first time in our adult lives, I looked at my sister and said no. The switch in her demeanor was instant and terrifying. The tears dried up. Her face contorted with rage. "After everything we've been through?" She screamed. "I'm your sister. How can you be so selfish? You're just jealous because I actually have dreams while you waste your life behind a desk. You've always been jealous of me, jealous that I'm prettier, that people like me better, that I'm not afraid to actually live my life." I remained calm and explained that I loved her, but enabling her behavior wasn't helping either of us. I offered to help her create a budget, look for stable employment, or even pay for financial counseling. This only enraged her more. She accused me of being condescending, of trying to control her life, of wanting her to be boring like me. She stormed out, slamming the door so hard a picture frame fell and shattered. Ironically, it was a photo of us as children, arms around each other, grinning at the camera. What happened next was like watching a carefully orchestrated character assassination. Within days, my phone was blowing up. Sarah had gone on a family-wide smear campaign. According to her, I had been stealing from our parents' retirement fund. Completely false, they handle their own finances. She claimed I had gotten my job through unsavory relationships with married executives. She even suggested I was dealing drugs to afford my lifestyle, since everyone knows finance doesn't pay that well. The accusations got more elaborate and bizarre. She told our cousin Jenny that I had borrowed money from her years ago and never paid it back, a complete fabrication. She informed our Aunt Martha that she'd seen suspicious men coming and going from my house at all hours. I live alone and work from home most days. She even suggested to our younger cousins that they shouldn't be alone with me because I was unstable. The worst part? Some family members believed her. Our cousins started making snide comments on social media. Aunts who used to praise my success now viewed me with suspicion. Even our mother called, asking if I was in some kind of trouble and offering to help me get back on the right path. The conversation with Mom was particularly painful. How could she so easily believe the worst about me, her daughter who had never given her any reason to doubt? I tried defending myself at first, but quickly realized it was pointless. Those who knew me well enough to know the truth stood by me. My best friend Lisa, who had witnessed Sarah's manipulation for years, became my rock. My boss, noting my distraction at work, was unexpectedly understanding when I briefly explained the situation. Those who chose to believe Sarah's lies weren't interested in my side of the story. It hurt, but it also confirmed I'd made the right decision. The situation came to a head at our grandmother's 80th birthday party last weekend. Sarah showed up 2 hours late, making a dramatic entrance in an expensive new outfit, carrying a designer bag that probably cost more than the emergency rent money she'd begged for 3 months ago. She played the role of the concerned sister perfectly, loudly telling anyone who would listen how worried she was about me and my lifestyle choices. Throughout the party, she made a show of avoiding me while simultaneously making sure everyone noticed the tension. She'd gasp and pull away if I came near her, whisper conspiratorially with relatives while shooting pointed looks in my direction, and make vague comments about hoping some people get the help they need. I maintained my composure throughout the event, but when she started telling our teenage cousins to be careful around me, I had enough. I pulled out my phone and quietly pulled up a folder I created years ago, screenshots of every transfer I'd made to her, text messages begging for money, and photos from her social media showing how she'd spent it. I had dates, amounts, and her own words promising to pay me back. I didn't make a scene. I simply showed these to our parents and a few key family members who had been most vocal in criticizing me. The tide of opinion began to shift. Our father, always the more practical parent, asked Sarah pointed questions about specific transfers. She couldn't keep her story straight. When Mom saw the text messages where Sarah had guilted me about family loyalty while asking for money, something in her expression changed. Sarah left the party early, claiming she felt attacked. The aftermath has been both vindicating and heartbreaking. I've received several apologetic messages from family members who realized they'd been manipulated. My Aunt Martha sent a particularly touching email, sharing that she had experienced something similar with her own sister years ago. Sarah has blocked me on everything, but I hear through the grapevine that she's telling people I doctored the evidence to make her look bad. Some still believe her, and that hurts. But for the first time in years, I feel free. My bank account is recovering, and more importantly, so is my sense of self-respect. I've started therapy to work through the guilt and manipulation I endured. My therapist is helping me understand how my childhood role as Sarah's protector set me up for years of exploitation. I've also set up a separate savings account with the money I would have typically sent to Sarah. I'm planning a vacation for myself instead. Last week, I ran into Sarah's old roommate at the grocery store. She mentioned that Sarah had moved in with a new boyfriend who apparently has money. Part of me felt that familiar twist of worry: what happens when this relationship ends? Will she be okay? But then I reminded myself, Sarah is an adult. Her choices are her own. I can love her without sacrificing myself to save her. I miss the sister I thought I had, but I'm learning that relationship was largely a fantasy I created to justify being taken advantage of. Sometimes the hardest part of loving someone is learning when to stop enabling them. The little girl who appointed herself protector of her baby sister has finally realized that sometimes protection means letting go. To those who might be in similar situations, it's okay to say no. It's okay to prioritize your own financial and emotional well-being. And it's okay to let toxic family members face the consequences of their own choices, even when it hurts to watch. Edit: Wow, this blew up overnight. Thank you all for the supportive comments and awards. To address some common questions. 1. Yes, I have all the loan documentation and text messages saved in multiple places. 2. No, I never had her sign any formal loan agreements. I know, lesson learned. 3. Several people have suggested I take legal action. While I appreciate the advice, I've decided that the emotional cost of dragging this through the courts isn't worth it to me right now. 4. For those asking about our parents, they're good people who tried their best, but they've always had a blind spot when it comes to Sarah's manipulation. They're slowly starting to see the truth. 5. To the person who asked about my job, I'm a financial analyst at a mid-sized firm. The irony of being good with money professionally while letting my sister drain my accounts isn't lost on me. Edit 2. Thank you for all the comments sharing similar experiences. I'm trying to respond to as many as I can. It's both heartbreaking and comforting to know I'm not alone in this. Edit 3. Since many have asked about updates, Sarah sent me a text yesterday, from a new number, asking if I could let bygones be bygones and help her with a small favor. I didn't respond. Progress. Final update. It's been 6 months since my original post, and so much has happened that I feel I owe you all a final update. Thank you to everyone who offered support and shared their own stories. You helped me stay strong through some really difficult moments. The biggest news first: Sarah got married last month. To the wealthy boyfriend I mentioned in my last edit. They had a lavish destination wedding in Bali that none of our immediate family could afford to attend. Invitation arrived with 3 weeks' notice and required a $2,000 minimum stay at the resort. Our parents were heartbroken about missing it, but Sarah assured them she'd have a small family reception back home. That hasn't happened yet. I found out about most of this through family because I've maintained my no-contact stance. The only direct interaction I've had with Sarah was during our grandfather's hospitalization 2 months ago. He had a heart scare, he's okay now, and we both rushed to the hospital. It was awkward, but we managed to be civil for our family's sake. She was wearing a massive diamond ring and made sure everyone noticed it. The family dynamics have shifted significantly. Remember how I showed those screenshots at Grandma's birthday party? Well, more family members have come forward with their own Sarah stories. Turns out she had borrowed money from quite a few relatives, though nothing close to what she got from me. My cousin Jenny, who initially believed Sarah's lies about me, revealed that Sarah had convinced her to co-sign on a car lease 2 years ago. Jenny's now stuck paying for a vehicle she never drives because Sarah took it when she moved in with her now husband. The most significant change has been with our parents. Mom finally admitted that she'd enabled Sarah's behavior throughout her life. She found old diaries from our teenage years and was horrified to realize how much responsibility they'd placed on me to manage Sarah. Dad started therapy himself, saying he needs to understand why he let his little princess manipulate him for so long. They both apologized to me multiple times, and our relationship is actually stronger now than it's been in years. As for me, life has improved in ways I never expected. Remember that savings account I mentioned, where I was putting the money I used to send to Sarah? Well, I just put a down payment on a small condo. It's not fancy, but it's mine, and every time I walk through the door, I feel proud of choosing myself. The therapy is going well too. I've learned a lot about codependency and how my caretaker role with Sarah shaped my other relationships. I've started dating someone new, met through a work conference, and for the first time in my adult life, I'm in a relationship where I don't feel responsible for fixing everyone's problems. There have been challenging moments. Sarah's wedding photos are all over social media, and some show our extended family having an amazing time in Bali. It stung to see them there after they'd supported me through everything, but my therapist helped me understand that people can care about me while still maintaining relationships with Sarah. I'm learning to be okay with that complexity. Last week, I received a package from Sarah. Inside was a check for $5,000 and a letter explaining that her new husband insisted she clear up old debts. The letter was classic Sarah, half apologetic, half justifying, with subtle digs about how I never supported her dreams but now she's proven everyone wrong. The old me would have cashed the check and seen it as a sign that she was changing. Instead, I returned it with a simple note: I'm glad you're happy in your new life. I forgive you, but I don't want to resume financial entanglements of any kind. She posted a vague social media rant the next day about ungrateful people who can't move forward, but I just laughed. That reaction alone shows how far I've come. Some family members keep hoping for a grand reconciliation, especially with the holidays coming up. They mean well, but they don't understand that sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is maintain boundaries with people who've hurt you, even family. Maybe especially family. The biggest lesson I've learned through all of this? Sometimes when people show you who they are, the kindest thing you can do, for both of you, is believe them the first time. I spent years trying to save my sister from herself, but in the end, I was the one who needed saving. I don't know if Sarah will ever truly change. Her new wealthy lifestyle might mean she never needs to ask me for money again, but the underlying patterns are still there. I've seen her tagging our younger cousins in social media posts about amazing business opportunities, so some things never change. As for me, I'm done being anyone's ATM or emotional crutch. I'm learning to redirect all that caretaking energy toward myself, and it feels amazing. My housewarming party is next weekend, and for the first time, I'm celebrating a major life event without worrying about managing anyone else's feelings or financial needs. To everyone who shared their stories and support, thank you. You helped me find the strength to maintain boundaries I should have set years ago. And to anyone else dealing with financial exploitation from family members, it's okay to say no. It's okay to choose peace over chaos, even if that choice makes you feel guilty at first. The guilt fades. The peace grows. This will be my last update on this situation. I'm ready to close this chapter and focus on building my own life. But I'll never forget how this community helped me find my voice. Edit. Thank you for all. To those asking about the condo, yes, I'll post some pictures in the homeowners subreddit once I'm done decorating. And no, Sarah doesn't know my new address. Edit 2. Since people are asking, Jenny is pursuing legal action about the car lease situation. I've provided her with documentation of Sarah's pattern of financial manipulation to help her case. Edit 3. My parents just called. Apparently, Sarah's small family reception is now scheduled for Christmas Eve and requires a $200 gift minimum. Some things really never do change. Edit 4. Last edit, I promise. For those concerned about my grandfather, he's doing great and has become one of my strongest supporters. He's actually helping me pick out furniture for the new place and loves telling everyone how proud he is of his sensible granddaughter.